We will now access the transmission mount to add spacers as well. To do that, we got to remove the air box. So 110 mil here, 110 mil here, and behind the air box here, there's a little cut cap, and you remove that 10 mil. You're going to loosen up this piece here or this side, and you're going to take the clamp off of here, and then you'll be able to remove the air box. Okay, so now we have the air box removed, and we're going to access this transmission mount to remove it. All right, so to shim the transmission mount with the spacers, we have to remove the engine mount, of course. So by doing that, we will be loosening up these 3 bolts that holds the mount to the transmission, and then we're going to be loosening one bolt back there and 1 bolt here. They're all 17s, and then we can lift this bracket up, put our spacers in, and put it back down. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so these are the way the spacers are going to be, but technically the engine mount needs to sit lower. Why isn't it going down? So what I just did is actually loosen the engine mount so that I could rotate inside here. And so now it looks like it might work. Okay, so while installing this, I noticed that you can't get this mount over enough to line up with the holes. This one. It needs to come over this way or down. So what I'm going to do, since we have to install subframe shims, is I'm actually going to lower the subframe myself. So the bolts for the subframe are right here, and then I'll lower the subframe down on here, and that should give me the clearance I need to install the rest of it. So I just got to loosen these bolts here. Just these bolts here, subframe bolts. 17 mil, I believe. Oh, we're going to lower the subframe. So we're going to loosen it. We have to replace these anyways. Scratch that. 17 millimeter bolts. So now let's check out the top and see if our engine mount, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is working. Where is our light? Here's our light. Take a look in there. Right there, see our bolt can almost reach now. So if we lower the subframe down a little more, all those bolts will line up. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna lower the subframe down just a little more. So back at it. And to me, it looks like we're good now. It's gonna line up and be just fine. Let's see if those bolts line up now. Take our bolts. There goes one. So it is kind of tough to get these on. So you're gonna drop it like so. It's gonna fall in the hole. Okay, so if it doesn't want to fall in the hole, you might have to do it by hand. Put your finger in here. There you go. Once you have it lined up, then you can get your socket in here. We can now torque them to 40 foot-pounds. There's one. Tighten these up. Those get tightened up to 40 foot-pounds as well. So same thing. Change of plan. We are supporting the subframe with a jack. It's much simpler. It's more to what a regular person would be doing. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. this vehicle have changed from raising the subframe. So we got to remember that these splash shields are not going to line up like they used to, because they can't, because the subframe dropped down. So you're going to have to make adjustments and or trim. I'm going to torque this side now. Okay. Now that we've completed the shims for the mounts, the engine mounts, and the subframe, we can now return the airbox. Remember your points of connection, the 2 hoses, and your 3 bolts. Everything's tight. Now we can move on to the struts. All right, so now we're going to be removing the struts so we can install the spacers. So what we want to do is, all right, so I'm going to disconnect the ABS sensor wire. Okay, so ABS sensor wire. after a lot of fighting, I realized that if I could not get enough leverage on this with the sway bar connected, so I just undid the the sway bar linkage off the subframe, and then I had enough force with my pry bar to get this in position. I have the camber adjusting bolt in here, so we're just going to position that in its most inward setting, because this vehicle needs an alignment like as soon as I'm done. So all my bolts are here. So what we do with this is we're just gonna watch the, see how it moves. We want it to go in its inmost setting, which is about there. Then we're gonna tighten this up. And this one, I'm just gonna tighten this bolt. I think I might have hit this. What is it, 22? This is done. So everything's done on this side. We just have to put the sway bar bushing brackets back on. We're going to mark all these bolts, make sure everyone knows everything we touched here was put back, and clean up. We'll be right back. Okay, so everything's completed. We got our camber adjuster bolt in. Everything's connected again. Tie rod. We cut out this section here. We spray painted it with some undercoat. We got our spacers in. Those bolts are torqued. Our subframe bolts, spacers are in. We marked everything. Our sway bar had to come out to get enough leverage with our pry bar so that we can put this in knuckle inside here, or else you can't do it. If you do not remove the sway bar, you will never get this section to push so you can line it up in here. So you must disconnect the sway bar right here. Just let it hang down from both sides and then you can do it. Also, we torqued the top of the strut, like those nuts on the top in the engine bay, to 33 foot-pounds. And now we're going to tackle the propeller shaft spacing. So you just install the spacer here, and this piece stays like this. Well, that completes the entire front end propeller shaft system. So now everything's in line nicely. So now we just have to drop the rear end down and replace everything back here, and we'll be done.